Jamaica, like many other countries during the Cold War, found itself caught up in the ideological struggles between the United States and the Soviet Union. In the case of Jamaica, the struggle took the form of a battle between capitalism and communism, with the United States pushing for the former and the Soviet Union supporting the latter. The United States played a significant role in shaping the political climate of Jamaica during the Cold War. The US government saw Jamaica as a strategically important country in the Caribbean region and sought to maintain its influence there. The US government provided economic and military assistance to Jamaica, but this aid came with strings attached. The US government expected Jamaica to follow its lead on foreign policy and to support its anti-communist efforts. The political situation in Jamaica during the Cold War was marked by a high degree of polarization. The two main political parties, the People's National Party, the PNP, and the Jamaican Labour Party, the JLP, were bitterly divided, and their supporters were often at odds with each other. The PNP was seen as being more sympathetic to socialist and communist ideas, while the JLP was more closely aligned with the United States. It was during this time that Bob Marley and other musicians emerged as important voices in Jamaican society. Marley's music was deeply political, and he used his songs to critique the political establishment and to call for social justice and equality. Marley's music was popular not only in Jamaica but also throughout the world, and he became a powerful symbol of resistance to oppression and injustice. Marley's music played an important role in shaping the political consciousness of Jamaicans during the Cold War. His songs spoke directly to the issues that were most pressing for Jamaicans, including poverty, inequality, and political corruption. Marley's music also provided a sense of hope and inspiration to Jamaicans who were struggling against oppression and injustice. The United States has played a significant role in the politics of many Caribbean countries over the years. The United States has a long history of involvement in the region, dating back to the 19th century when it began to exert its influence in the region through military interventions, economic coercion, and political pressure. During the Cold War, the United States saw the Caribbean region as a strategically important area, both in terms of its economic interests and its geopolitical objectives. The United States sought to maintain its influence in the region and to prevent the spread of communism by supporting anti-communist regimes and political parties. One example of U.S. involvement in the politics of the Caribbean during the Cold War is the case of Cuba. The United States was deeply involved in efforts to overthrow the government of Fidel Castro, which it saw as a threat to its interest in the region. The Soviet Union saw Cuba as a strategic ally and provided significant economic and military aid to the country, including weapons, military advisors, and economic support. The Soviet Union also sought to establish friendly relations with other countries in the region, such as Grenada, which had a socialist government in the 1970s and 1980s. The Soviet Union provided economic aid to Grenada as well as military advisors and weapons. The US government supported a failed invasion of Cuba in 1961. The US government supported a failed invasion of Cuba in 1961 and imposed a trade embargo on the country, which remains in place to this day. Another example is the case of the Dominican Republic. In 1965, the United States intervened militarily in the Dominican Republic to prevent the spread of communism and to support the establishment of a pro-US government. In more recent years, the United States has continued to play a significant role in the politics of the Caribbean. For example, the US government has been involved in efforts to combat drug trafficking and other forms of crime in the region, and it has also been involved in efforts to promote democracy and human rights. Overall, the role of the United States in the politics of the Caribbean has been complex and controversial. While the U.S. government has often presented itself as a defender of democracy and human rights, its actions in the region have sometimes been seen as heavy handed and self serving. The legacy of U.S. involvement in the region continues to be felt today, both in terms of political relations and economic and social development.